Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, we got a lot going on. We have a Vol that was actually offered over $500,000 from another school. And we got a tight end coach that just got hired. We're going to talk about that. And then Saturday, which is tomorrow, we got Auburn Tigers. So we got a lot going on right now. A kid got offered over $500,000 to attend another school, NIL money. We got to talk about that. It says here, a Tennessee Vols signee was offered significant amount of cash to sign with program that was not recruiting him. And it talks about in 2023 signee, a 4-star defensive lineman, David Hobbs, almost a 5-star. It says, according to Hobbs, he received a message from a verified Instagram account that claimed to be associated with Utah. Hobbs said the account offered him $600,000 to sign with Utah. Said Hobbs couldn't believe the direct message on Instagram. He gets random ones from time to time. This is expected. The Tennessee commit is the number 36 overall player in the country. On more than one occasion, a third party reached out about a potential name, image, and likeness opportunity. However, this one stuck out. The message came from a verified account with millions of followers offering $600K for him to go to Utah. Hobbs couldn't believe it. That's a ton of money. He showed his mom. Hobbs had one issue, though. He said Utah was not even recruiting him. It says the story is not all that surprising. The current world of NIL is a mess. It said some NIL collectives are acting on behalf of certain schools without the schools knowing what conversations are happening, which is leading to a bunch of broken promises to recruits. And that's exactly what happened with Jaden Rashada. You know, they were doing deals with him, over $13 million to Jaden Rashada. I guess it was a multi-year deal. And it doesn't sound like the Florida Gators were aware that it had gotten that high. I don't know if the Gators put the nix on it or if the guy that was supposed to come up with the money failed to do so or if there was some sort of miscommunication. But these things happen all the time with NIL. And this is one where, again, this is a guy that was not even being recruited by Utah, and some guy from Instagram says, hey, here's $600K if you attend, I guess, and do NIL. Said, fortunately for Tennessee, they're ahead of the game when it comes to NIL. There's total alignment at UT. No one's making promises that can't be kept, and there isn't a bunch of frivolous spending happening. Tennessee's been building a sustainable recruiting model, et cetera. Here it brought up the Jaden Rashada at Florida collective made a financial promise but never wrote the check. It says, by the way, Hobbs told 247 that he probably would have signed with Tennessee even without NIL being a factor. He said, I like Tennessee for what it was. I probably would have chosen them without NIL, but it was a good factor. So obviously they got David set up through NIL, which is the Spire Sports Group, which is, you know, everybody needs to have that lined up. And really the Vols have done a great job of that. I noticed in the portal they're not going into the whole trying to outbid other collectives, because if you look at what we got in our transfer portal, we got good quality players, but we didn't go after the 5-stars or the guys that were strictly looking for money. We went after guys looking for an opportunity, and they put together reasonable NIL deals for them. And it worked out pretty good for us. We got some good quality players. But, you know, if you go out and you start spending a ton of money, you bring in this guy from the portal, all of a sudden all the other players find out and they're like, hey, you brought in this stranger, giving him all this money, and I've been here this whole time. It creates all kinds of drama in the locker room, and I think they're trying to keep that from happening. I think that's why they didn't throw tons of money at the transfer portal, because that can really screw up your chemistry in your locker room. And I think Heupel and the Vols have decided not to do that. They did not get into any kind of bidding wars with other teams. And I'm sure David Hobbs was over there. He was like, man, big money, no whammies.
Big bucks. Stop. Stop. That's what you want.
Yeah, that would be an interesting message to get on your phone. Hey, would you like $600,000? That'd get your attention at 18 years old. And here we've got a story about Tennessee finally got a tight ends coach, and they hired from within with Alec Abilene. It did not surprise me that he hired from within, because if you've kept up with Josh Heupel, he does not like to bring outside forces in when it comes to offense. Now, defense is a little different story, but he is very careful with his offense, and he doesn't like people coming in and sticking their nose into what he's doing. Now, this was necessary because Alex Golish left to take the head coaching job at South Florida. The move obviously left us without an offensive coordinator, so he moved up Joey Halsley, who was the quarterback coach, and now he's become the offensive coordinator. Also, the tight end coach was gone, so Heupel had to find another guy, and instead of going outside, like I said, he found Abilene. He's the new tight ends coach, and he's a guy that Heupel's very familiar with. He knew him from Missouri and then also worked with him at UCF, so these guys have been together for quite a while. And Alec was an offensive lineman. He also played as tight end as well, so he knows the position extremely well. And we're going to be replacing Princeton Fant, who played, man, I'm tell you what, he was a Swiss Army knife. He did it all. He even ran the ball. Remember some of those games where we didn't have a big running back when you needed like a yard, and they'd put him in there, and he played great. He really did a good job. We're going to miss him. So veteran Jacob Warren came back. That was helpful. We've got McCollin Castles, who we brought in from UC Davis. He's actually really fast. He runs like a 4.68 40, and he's a big dude. And then Ethan Davis, who is a super high 4-star. So I think we're in good shape at tight end, and I'm pleased with this hiring from within. It makes perfect sense because really when you've got the number one offense in the country, and I like showing this graph. Here you can see when Heupel showed up, he took over an offense that was 109th under Pruitt. Then his first year with really less players took it to number 7. That must have just been good luck, I guess. And then he took it to first in the country with 46.1. So he got real lucky that year because, Pruitt would have definitely done better than Heupel if it wasn't for luck. Look, when you got the number one offense in the country, everybody wants a piece of it. And you've got all kinds of double knot spies showing up trying to get your offensive plans and trying to figure it out. So he doesn't want that. So he's staying within. He doesn't need people showing up and trying to steal his secrets.
They're always after me, Lucky Charms. It's a television commercial.
That's right. They're trying to get his Lucky Charms. Not allowed. Now, tomorrow we've got a big game, the Auburn Tigers. That's an especially big game because of Bruce Pearl. And he'll be there all fired up. And I think it's a little bit bittersweet for him because he misses the Vols. Look, he had a great job. He loved his job. And the city really embraced him. And he gave away some barbecue sandwiches and wasn't straight up with it with the NCAA. Next thing you know, he gets a 3-year show cause. And the guy that was involved in that show cause wound up being athletic director at Auburn and hired him. So obviously it didn't bother him too bad. As you can see here, Alabama's in first place. They're 9-0 in the conference. Tennessee and Auburn and Texas A&M are all tied with 2 losses. We just lost. That was a bad loss to Florida. Man, that stunk. And Auburn's had a couple of losses too. It's been a little bit of a struggle recently for both teams. And Auburn is 17-5, and they're number 25 in the country. And, of course, like we talked about, second in the SEC. And if you've watched Auburn at all this year, look, here's what they're going to do. They're going to shoot that 3 like crazy. They're going to play really hard defense. They're going to play with tons of energy. They're going to make it really difficult to get the ball in, especially under the hoop. So I expect a heck of a game. And if we shoot well, we'll be fine. I think if we're on our game, we should win this game pretty easily. But if we play like we did against Kentucky and Florida and we're missing our threes and not feeding that ball inside, we're going to struggle. And Auburn could flat out beat us. Now, it's at Thompson Bowling Arena, and the crowd will be going crazy. It's a 2 o'clock game. I wish it was like a 6 or 7 o'clock game. But, Thompson Bowling will be packed. And as you know, we hold over 20,000 seats in Thompson Bowling. Most of these teams are used to being around 10,000 or 11 because that's all they can really fill their arenas with. Look, we've just got a bigger footprint and a more high-energy crowd and a lot more interest in basketball here at Tennessee. It's one of the reasons why Tennessee usually is really good at basketball because there's just so much interest in it here in Knoxville and all over the area. I think that's one of the reasons why Pearl misses it. It's a lot more fun to be in front of 21,000 instead of 10,000. And look, the Auburn people have embraced him pretty well, but it's not the same. It's just not. Auburn's a nice little college town, but that's all it is, whereas Knoxville's a heck of a town. All right, folks, I just wanted to cover those stories today. Quite a bit going on in the world of the Vols. And I do want to let you know, if you have a business or something along those lines, you're interested in sponsoring this channel, I'm going to put my email address right here at the bottom. You can contact me there. I am interested in doing some type of sponsorship for the channel. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's be able to continue to cover the Vols and the SEC and all those good things. And if you have not subscribed, it's right here on the left. Super easy to do. Just hit that little button. Doesn't cost you a penny. It would certainly help me. I appreciate it. And YouTube puts a video right over here, one of my most recent ones, pretty popular. Be sure to check that out. And we'll see you next time at Sports Talk Jay.